So I know a lot of you out there have got talent. You've certainly been putting in the time, and you still may be wondering why you're not landing your dream job in the creative field. Well, here's a little bit of statistic for you. In London, at least, as of 2024, only 7% of jobs in the creative field are geared toward entry level positions. If anything, this certainly highlights the significant scarcity, and that makes it increasingly difficult for newcomers to break into the field. And I have mentioned this before, but what if I told you that the difference between success and struggle isn't your talent? It's something else entirely. There's a lot of other contributing factors here. A lot of artists are putting stunning work online these days. That aspect is probably more competitive than it has ever been. Right? You rack up the likes even, you get a decent number of shares and feedback, but you're still just getting crickets when it comes to job applications. This is just simply because technical excellence isn't enough. It's certainly where we all need to start, but there needs to be more. Studios want something a bit more moving into 2025, and it's something a lot of art students and newcomers tend to overlook. So this is going to kick off the next line of videos on design to kind of kick off the new year, moving into 2025. If you missed my last video, definitely check that out, and don't miss the next few videos that will come following this. In this video, I'm going to be going over the skills that you need and aspects you may be overlooking when it comes to getting hired. And I know at least in the next video, I'm going to be presenting a breakthrough formula that you can use to optimize your schedule and seize your improvement when it comes to creativity and design. So with that said, let's get into this. So for my first topic up today, I want to talk about the triangle of mastery. A lot of people do cover a lot of stuff. I've covered a lot in the past, like the technical excellence, right? This is a high level of skill and mastery in the fundamental tools, right? The techniques and the processes required to create production art. This is a necessity. This is almost like a bar of entry, right? You have to be able to technically communicate your ideas properly in order to succeed in a creative field like this. So what does this entail? Here's a few student examples, right? Strong fundamentals, right, from Jaylene here. A mastery of basic elements like composition, anatomy, perspective, color theory, and lighting. If you are weak in one of those, absolutely dial in and start grinding those out. And also having a solid grasp of design principles, such as balance, contrast, rhythm, and hierarchy will go a long way. Having a proficiency of medium and tools, right? So regardless of what you want to use, it could be anything, whether it's Procreate, whether it's charcoal and pencil, whether it's Photoshop. Of course, if you do have experience in multiple softwares and multiple tools, that's a huge help. Being able to transition from Blender to VR to Procreate, or let's say if your computer shuts down and you could still access your task for your work on your phone and they need like an idea for 12 artifacts, you could sit there on paper, draw out 12 artifacts, scan it in later, and you can get it to them, or take a picture with your phone and upload it to your work server, right? Having versatility in these tools is a huge benefit, right? And with this, of course, having consistency and precision, right? Delivering work that is clean, that is polished, and that is free of technical errors. Now, there's always going to be a little bit of technical errors. That happens. That's an occupational hazard. But do your best to minimize them, of course. Repeating quality output under deadlines and across multiple pieces will be the key to victory here. Attention to detail, knowing when and how to refine a piece without overworking it. That's a huge thing, right? Adding textures, patterns, or intricate elements to enhance believability and immersion only when necessary, right? So it's getting to know what your needs are, how to meet those demands, and adapt as follows. So hopefully by now you've created a number of pieces and a variety of ones, so you'll have efficiency and workflow, right? Using effective processes essentially go from point A to point B to maximize productivity, to maintain quality, and of course avoiding unnecessary steps or wasted effort in the creation process, right? When you waste time, that wastes money, clients get upset. Now, if you could showcase great problem solving and abilities here, that's a huge plus, right? Addressing challenges in the design, such as how to render complex materials in a very simple way, or fix perspective issues, or figure out how a simple mechanism works and functions for a level design. Resolving visual storytelling problems in a clear and appealing way is a huge plus. A recent hire of mine, Elvira, has shown great versatility and adaptability with projects I've managed to put her on. She's always done beautiful, handcrafted, almost like children book like illustration filled with lush characters and creatures, but I put her on a number of different production tasks, and she has shown, all this works on our NDA, great ability to adapt into these new projects and to perform to the new project guidelines. So that's a huge plus to have if you're coming into this industry. So breaking through as an artist takes more than just technical mastery. There are many soft skills to complete this triangle of mastery, and to succeed, you need to stand out in all these categories. But the good thing is, you can learn them all through practice and study. I've mentioned my fellow YouTuber, Hardy Fowler, who makes some awesome classes on Skillshare. And his courses, of course, are a great resource for upping your game in all of these areas. And so that's why I'm excited to announce the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community offering a vast array of inspiring project-based courses taught by industry-leading professionals. So whether you're a novice or a more experienced artist and designer looking to elevate your skills, Skillshare offers a variety of learning pathways to help you grow in many exciting creative disciplines. So Hardy has teamed up with Skillshare once again to create an awesome class called Portfolio Boost. This one is short and sweet. It covers a variety of topics that just go beyond the technical skill. Professional intuition starts when you format and build your portfolio. And this class gives a great insight into what art directors want to see. All of Hardy's courses are very in-depth, discussing the important aspects to creating artwork that is relevant in our complicated industry. So not only will you learn a lot from this class, but Skillshare has tons of courses that are valuable, covering things like drawing, environment design, character design, and of course much more. Go check out this class for free on Skillshare because they have a special offer right now where the first 500 people to use my link will get a 1-month free trial. In 30 days, you can make a lot of progress with no risk. So check out Hardy's class and the opportunities to explore many of the classes on Skillshare. Click the link in the description. Thank you again for Skillshare for sponsoring this video. The second aspect of the triangle, of course, is production intelligence, right? Understanding the application and the processes of workflows, collaborative practices, and of course, this just goes beyond creating effective, stunning visuals, right? It ensures that your work, integrates seamlessly with a larger production pipeline, right? So in these examples we just covered in the last video, check it out if you missed it, right? The production pipeline going from thumbnails, exploration sketches, iterations, variations, revisions, all the way down to the line to modeling sheets, right? Understanding these studio workflows. The best way you can start to practice this is to emulate this process in your own work, right? In your own projects, right? So embrace these feedback loops. Studios often require multiple iterations to refine a concept. This doesn't mean, expectation-wise, you have to get something right or 100% right the first attempt. That's very rarely the case. Remember, it's going to go through a pipeline. Now, if you can get familiar with and know your way around some of the collaborative team software out there, that's a huge plus, whether it's on something like Slack or Trello, right? Being able to effectively communicate your ideas across multiple types of people, from 3D artists to programmers to producers, right? That's a huge benefit. So having your work be really clear, being able to upload it on time, and to put the correct annotations with that, to label the work precisely to their standards. Every studio I've worked with has very specific naming conventions that they want you to follow. This is essentially the efficient handoff. It's ready for the next person on this assembly line. So you can, of course, improve this by doing production-ready thinking. Part of that's time management, right? Working within these tighter deadlines without necessarily sacrificing quality wholeheartedly, right? Prioritizing tasks effectively and delivering roughs quickly enough when necessary and being able to refine them later on. So if you could solve problems early, That's a huge plus, right? Anticipating any sort of production challenges, such as how design might be animated, how it might be rendered, and addressing them proactively. Essentially, this is delivering usable concepts, right? Balancing creativity with practicality. It's always like the double-edged sword. So for instance, a fantastical environment might still be structured believably if it's built within 3D, or a character must function from a gameplay aspect if it's intended to be, for an interactive medium. And, adopting a studio-specific process. Every studio does fluctuate a little bit in this whole process and this whole pipeline. But again, the more familiar you are with, the more you know about the terms and the strengths and the effectiveness of various softwares like Photoshop, ZBrush, or Blender, you can adapt to these tools or even studio-specific workflows when needed, right? Essentially increasing your value as a team member. And this, of course, includes style adaptability, aligning with the studio's visual style or brand identity, whether it's hyper-realistic, stylized, or abstract. So these are two examples from Fortnite that I did years ago, right? And this is like our first attempt at doing their PA speakers. They were just much too stiff, much too detailed even for what they were looking for. Of course, with a little bit of feedback, being able to take that feedback and adapt to the style of the project, you can start to see like they got essentially to a lot more Fortnite-like, with a little bit more wonk and simplification and exaggeration involved in these concepts. Finally, that brings us to professional intuition, right? The ability to anticipate the needs of a project and deliver the work that aligns seamlessly with the vision of the art director and the overall goals of the production, right? It elevates an artist from being merely skilled to being indispensable. So kind of like I was saying before, anticipating the needs, right? Understanding the vision of the art lead, of the creative director, or the art director even, right? Grasping the narrative, the tone, and the style of the project without needing extensive hand-holding, right? Researching reference material on the fly as you're going with brief to brief, essentially thoroughly going through, to preemptively align your work with the project's goals. Right, asking clarifying questions to ensure you're on the right track. Like, hey, is this the right amount of detail? Is this the right size for this particular prop or this level? Whatever may come up. Right, so this is essentially all visual problem solving, which to be able to solve a visual problem, like I said at the start, you have to be able to at least draw, paint, and render to a decent degree to begin with. It's too hard to do both if you've never done one or the other. Right? So consider how the designs will function in context, right? That's a huge plus. So for example, I thought on a brief back in the day when the client needed a big production gun, for this level, they needed something big and massive. I was trying to anticipate these needs, coming up with the ideas for the small sentry guns, for the loading platforms, to the scale and how it would interact with the player. I was trying to do all of this for them. But, in that effort, it doesn't always go that right way. And in fact, the studio wanted something much simpler. So that was fine. That was a bit of a wasted day worth of work. Had to scale things back considerably and do much more smaller mounted artillery cannons. So, sometimes you can try. You always don't stick the landing. So make sure you address your creative constraints. Definitely take feedback into consideration when you're doing that iterative refinement, and always be thinking critically, of course, right? Being to objectively measure your idea. Hey, is this good or is this bad? Not what you think is best or what your ideal version of this, right? It's always about in service of the project. And this comes down to delivering exactly what art directors want. Reading in between those lines, right? Picking up on those subtle hints and those preferences that the art directors may not explicitly communicate. This is the hardest part here, right? Just developing that deep understanding of their priorities. So I've talked about this a lot. Just present your work very thoroughly and maintain that consistency with the style and the tone, right? And this is the role of experience and observation, which you can achieve by practicing a lot of personal projects that emulate real-world working pipelines, right? So develop your intuition through this practice, right? It's not an innate skill. This is something that needs to be cultivated with time and that practice, right? So simply just observing patterns in your feedback, using that knowledge, of course, and streamline your workflow and preempt future requests. So this was an example for one student that I gave on an assignment to come up with some sci-fi designs because they wanted to come up with a mech base. But see, a lot of this just doesn't communicate information in their first attempt that nice, right? It's like sci-fi for sci-fi's sake. There's random shapes, there's greebles, there's stuff all over the place. It's not that effective design. There's nothing really relatable or tangible here. But upon receiving feedback, taking everything into consideration that I recommended, they were able to kind of come back from like these rough, kind of very abstract sci-fi sketches to several more manageable and pliable initial designs for their mech command base here. So listening to feedback and then being able to take a leap forward rather than a step backwards is always a huge plus. So the Triangle of Mastery, right? This isn't just some concept, it's the key to getting hired in 2025. This could be the difference between completely failing and unlocking your potential dream art career. Of course, there are plenty of awesome options to move forward with in the future, right? You could go solo, utilizing lists and resources like in this video. You could subscribe to the newsletter if you want me to mail you out slides of these. Those will be included in the upcoming month. You could get professional guidance, like with a mentorship, or you could do classes, whether they are self-guided, like Skillshare, or go through a series of classes, like what I offer on my website or CGMA. But I'd like to know, what is the biggest struggle you're currently facing as an artist? Let me know below in the comments. And again, I have links below for everything, whether they're my CGMA courses, professional online mentorships, and self-guided classes like Skillshare. Thank you again for sponsoring this video. But guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Till then, have a happy new year.